Welcome again to the Engineering Conversations. This is in relation to International Women's Day in Engineering. And today I have two female engineers who are going to share their experiences. I'm just going to let them go straight ahead and introduce themselves.
My name is Amina, and I work as a research engineer for an automotive consultancy based in work. So, yeah, that's me.
Hi guys, so I'm Tymele and I'm a PhD student in chemical engineering at the University of Loughborough.
So moving on, so we have one person working in industry and the other an engineering PhD student. So could you tell us a little bit about how you got into engineering, whether it was maybe you had a favorite subject, maybe your teacher, maybe a role models. How did you get into engineering?
I wanted to be an actress, which is very different than engineering. But my parents at the start, they were thinking that they wanted me to go to med school. So at my last year of high school, they were like, yeah, the only thing you're going to do is medical. You're going to go to medical school. So they were planning everything. I got admission into the University of France in Dijon to do med school. So I was just waiting on my results. So we were going through all the procedures. At that time, I was not sure what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to go to med school, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So it was later on after I got my baccalaureate results and, going to France, doing med school was kind of becoming official. So I was preparing the visa and everything. At that point, I wasn't really ready to debate much with my parents because they was not having it because I was going to med school and that's it. They were not discussing it. But then my visa got rejected. And then that's when I was like, it's time for me to speak up and say, I don't want to do this. I want to do something else. And at that time, while I was waiting for the results, there was a TV show I was watching called 24. And there was a character there called Chloe O'Brien that's kind of inspired me. She was like a computer hacker. And I was like, I didn't know much about it, but her character really inspired. I was like, I want to do what she's doing, I want to work on computers. And math was one of my favorite subjects and I was good at it. So I was like, what can I do? So I told my dad. He thought at first I was crazy, basing my career on an actress and a character, which is a fictional character. But so yeah, I convinced them, got into it, got an offer from the University of Fez. So I went and I started it, even though then they were not really convinced because they were like, you need to go to med school because if you want to plan to come back home, that's the only career where you can officially have a job because most of the other because it's still a developing country computer scientists unless you work on Word and Excel, people really don't see it as a career. You won't be earning money compared to a doctor. You will come straight when you start working. So that's the vision they had. But for me, the vision I had, it was independent and kind of choose my career for myself, what I wanted to do for myself. So yeah, I started as a computer science my first year. I failed the first year of uni. And they were like, we told you so. You should be a doctor. You should do med school. But yeah, I was like, no, I'm not taking it. I'm keeping it. I'm going to stay on the course, succeed the second year, and then continue as a computer science. Did my bachelor in computer science and math, and then did a master's in telecommunication. And then went back home, worked for 2 years, and then decided I wanted to do a PhD. And then when I looked into it, we needed to do a master's of research, an MRes. So I got into master's in image processing and computer vision, and then continued my PhD, and here I am today. But yeah, initially when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I wanted to be an actress and then base my career on a TV character. So it's kind of ironic, but yeah, we're here today.
This is amazing. I love your story.
So yeah, but yeah, my engineer career was definitely inspired by Chloe O'Brien. Please check
I think
her
you need to meet her. You need to meet her in real life or the character.
You should guys look into her. Like, she's really cool.
I
I don't think
remember
That was pretty cool. I went into engineering because, well, it wasn't what I wanted to do first. I first wanted to be a doctor too, but then realized I was way too scared of blood to be a doctor, so I just gave up on that idea. And then I also wanted to be a teacher for primary school, so I kept the idea in my mind for a very long time. But then, so I was doing my studies in France because I'm French, and I realized that if I wanted to be a doctor, I had to go through a specific high school, kind of like a specific specialty in high school, which weren't including math, physics, and chemistry, which I was obsessed with, especially like physics and chemistry. So I didn't know if I really want to go through that because that would mean I wouldn't do any more physics and chemistry. So I went into a scientific specialty in high school, and then it's just I had no idea about engineering basically, and it's just my mom. She mentioned like, oh, because of what you like and what you're good at, you should consider engineering. And I was like, what's that? What is engineering exactly? What do they do? And I had a look at it, and I thought it was pretty interesting because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew that I loved science, but I didn't know what engineering was and what I could do in there. But I liked the idea that engineering was pretty wide, as of like you can be anything. Engineering is just so like got so many possibilities with engineering. So I kind of liked the idea, and so I went on studying engineering in France. The system is a bit different from the UK, but I went on to do like kind of an MN, you could say, in engineering in general, and then material engineering as a specialty. And I loved it because, again, it was pretty general. I knew that I could do many things with it, and there was a lot of challenges, a lot of math, a lot of physics, chemistry, all this, which I loved. Then, in my last year, I had the opportunity for the next year to go to the UK to have like a double degree with the Cranfield University in the UK. So I went on to do an MSc at Cranfield for a year, and then realized that I liked research-based engineering, basically. So went on to do my PhD in chemical engineering at Loughborough. And that's how I got there. So it's pretty similar to Amina in a way that I didn't want to be an engineer from the beginning, and I wanted to be like more like a teacher or a doctor. And then it's just by chance because my mom mentioned engineering that I had a look at it and actually found out that I liked the idea of engineering and went on studying engineering for now 8 years after high school.
Wow. I like the way that there's a lot of parent influence in the decision. For Amina, it's like, you're going to be a medical doctor, but she's like, no, I want to be like Chloe in 24. And for you, it was more or less, you like the physics, chemistry, bio, and you wanted to still be in the field, but you probably also didn't know all the options that was available to your mom. Was like, hey, have you considered engineering? So I like the parent influence in there. I guess what do you think is the most important thing or project you have worked on in your career so far?
Early, and so my project that I was supposed to be working on hasn't started yet because it started back until March time. So I kind of like worked with another person on another project, and that project was quite enlightening because I learned a lot of things, especially in terms of my industry. Because the project was, how do you test? How do you give like an autonomous vehicle, a self-driving car, a testing? What's it called? A driving test. So how do you what are the different parameters, like the performance metric, and how do you say, okay, this autonomous vehicle is safe to go on the road now? So it was one of the safety aspects that I've never touched in terms of like interesting projects for me, because I did learn a lot, and it was really exciting because I get to go to like the Millbrook proving ground, which I've never been before, and that's where they test like racing cars and stuff. So it was really good because I do like Formula One as well. So it was really an eye-opening, and I got to meet lots of like motorsport engineers, and yeah, it was a very much like a good starting point of my career, kind of like to know more about the safety element, which I didn't know much of.
I guess for me, I don't have experience pretty much working in a company as an engineer. I did work as a student and all of that, but as I did all my studies back to back without taking like a year, a placement year or anything like they do in the UK, because it's not very common in France. So since I did everything back to back, I don't have a lot of experience in industry as of an engineer yet. But so far, I would say that my biggest project would be my 4-year PhD that I'm currently working on. I guess that would be the biggest project I've ever worked on so far. And probably another project would be related to my PhD, or more as I got access to that project through my PhD, is I am the current chair of the university group boards of the Women's Engineering Society, and that board was created just last year. So that was a big project in itself, because I had the opportunity to just make that board flourish after just like the second year of its creation. So I guess I had a lot of options of what I wanted to do with it to make it more important and to make it more visible for women in engineering, and especially for female engineering students. I guess that was a great opportunity for me to be able to work on that newly created board and have more flexibility and more possibilities of doing whatever I wanted to make it like more visible. That would be the two main projects I worked on so far.
That's really good. And then I also like what you said about that most of your work has been around research, because I think most people don't realize that aside from industry, the engineers who are contributing to research that will eventually feed into industry, which I think is something that we always need to talk about. Because when people hear engineer and research, they can't connect the two. And I think there are lots of engineers in research. So far in your engineering career or education, what would you say has been your greatest disappointment, and what have you done to change that or improve so that those scenarios don't keep happening?
I think for me, disappointment is after I finished my master's in telecommunication, I went back home and I worked for a telecommunication company. So I had expectation, and those expectations were not really met. Maybe because, as I said, like it was still like, it's a developing country. Like being a computer scientist and learning, like most of the work is based on like some basic program which you learn in your first year of uni kind of stuff, which is a bit archaic. So they're not up to date with the technology, especially like given technology is going so fast and everything. So I had expectation in my hand, like I would work on this particular software, do this, do that, be more hands-on, rather than be more like admin work and sitting on a desk and just like working on some like guidelines of a particular like tool or something. So it was because I wanted to be more hands-on, and work was more theoretical, and it was very much like monotonous, like 9 to 5 sitting on it. It was not as practical and as how can I say? I got bored.
Do you think maybe the technology, when you moved back home, the technology back home was had not advanced to the level of your training, so you were struggling?
Advanced, and even till today, like a lot of the technology have not advanced, because most of like people who are working there, like did their degree like long time ago, and there was not many new people who been trained to the newest technology. So that was a challenge itself. But then another challenge is I was the only female, so I was finding it hard to be heard. Like I would say something, but people would just, it's just, yeah, let's move on kind of thing. And at that time, I was not as well as confident in myself as well. So I didn't used to speak up. Maybe because it was still early in my career, and actually I didn't know much of my work. And so, yeah, so being a female in a very much like conservative country where like it's very male dominated, but as well the perception of female, and especially female engineer, is very much not there yet, and still to today it's very much not there. It was hard to like, okay, I'm proposing, for example, this solution, and then tomorrow they like just, I worked so hard to propose this, to kind of like have this vision, and I work on this project, and I want to try something new, but no, they will just like stick to what they've been doing so far, or like listen to another male who's been into the company for the past 10 years without, you know, considering an element of novelty that someone new brought up. So I find that challenging, and that's why I kind of like, okay, it's at that stage where I was thinking, okay, I need to think about my career for myself and my own development and where I want to be, like my career goals, not because when I started uni, I was looking into like careers that when I get back home, I will find a job. So you kind of like limit and restrain yourself in that sense. So that's where like I realized that if I want to do something, if I'm passionate about something, continue further education, do more for yourself and for like, you know, that dream that you have like 10 years from now, like where you want to be, rather than what is going to give me a job. Like, where I'm going to earn an income here and there fast.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I think I've got like very similar things to say. Like, I join you on so many points here. I'd say, yeah, obviously not having enough female in engineering, definitely from like all my years at uni, I've always been in the minority. There weren't that many female in my class. So that's a big point, because obviously you always feel like you don't feel as confident as well. I guess I wasn't either as confident at the time, and you always think that if you ask a question, you're going to be silly, and because you're one of the only girls in the room, they're going to associate you being asking a silly question to all women asking always silly questions, if that makes sense. Yeah, so that was like obviously not easy to get through. That's not great. That's why we need more women involved in engineering and even at university levels too. The other thing related to that was always sexist jokes as well, which you don't always realize at the time. But then when you think about it, you're thinking, why did they even say that? That's not related to the course. I had so many of these jokes by so many of my professors at university, and that was not even related. That's you don't do that. Just don't do this. And that wasn't even related to the course. And like, even I was laughing to this because I thought like, if you're not laughing to it, they're going to be like, oh, but you're just like straight feminist. Why are you like that? You're not funny. But it's just not funny. Like that's not ideal, of course, and that's still related to the fact that you haven't got enough women in engineering, so they don't realize how harmful that can be and how that can harm your confidence in yourself too. That would be the two main points, and also completely agree with you, Amina, on the hands-on experience of engineering. I feel like at university I was taught so many things, but like very few of these things were actually useful to me in my current research, for example, or I always felt disconnected because I was learning so many things, but I was always thinking, is that ever going to be useful to me when I go and work or when I go into research? And I feel like sometimes they don't connect what they teach you enough to how you can actually use that in practice. That's something that should be done more. And I've realized that in France, but also in the UK when I did my MSc. So it might be, I don't know if it's in all countries the same, but at least in France and in the UK, I think they can use more of like a relation between what you learn at uni and how that might be useful and how people actually use that into the industry or into the research world. Yeah.
That's really good. I think I've had that same problem with you about why am I in this class? Why are we learning this? Because you can't relate it to what you do. And I don't know if it's the way curriculum for different subjects is set. I know for engineering, it tends to build on, and it's normally like that last, maybe your level 400 classes that you can see the whole picture. But initially, like you're in physics class, and sometimes you're wondering, why am I learning gravity? Why am I learning this? But you get to final year, and you're like, oh, okay, this is why we were doing that. But for to take 3 years or 4 years to realize that, I feel sometimes it's that between that time period, you're going to lose some students or who could have probably been more invested in their education, but they don't because they're like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. Because it tends to be the theory gets too heavy and they're like, we want to see the application. And I also don't know if it's also the way I'm just thinking of some lecturers I had in undergrad and I'm like, nah, because some people teach so theoretical and you're like, can this class be over? Can this semester be over? So I think it all boils down probably to teaching style, to maybe the way the curriculum is designed. So I feel like students don't probably fully appreciate it as well.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'll agree with the curriculum. Like, it definitely needs to be rethink. I remember in my first year, because I want to be a computer scientist, and I had the dream. It's like, okay, I'm going to work on computers, do programming, So you go in your first year and you have like thermodynamic, and you have like physics, like math, like algebra analysis, like, or like you have like some languages, and I'm like, why do I need this? Like, why am I learning Spanish in my first year? Even like I'm not going to use it later on, maybe. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with my degree. Why am I learning thermodynamic? I want to be a programmer. Like, give me like a program, give me something to code, teach me a language in computer science. So I think in my first year, and that's one of the reasons maybe that I got disappointed when I started, and that kind of like I lost track, and hence why I failed my first year, because I was like, I signed up for this degree, but it doesn't seem like I'm doing things that are related to it. So it's after like I've spoken to like second year, third year students, I went to some of the classes just to see what are they like, what's the timetable, like what are the different modules they teach, they're learning and stuff. And then I was like, okay. And I spoke to, at that time, that's when I think like having a mentor as well, because going into uni is completely different to like high school. It's not a war game. Having a mentor to like guide you through your first year, and it's very important. And it's in my second year when I had the mentor, that's where I'm like kind of like, okay, you know what, I can do this. But at the first, I was very much disappointed by everything. I was like, I didn't sign up for it, and I lost interest. So I was self-teaching myself some languages, which was beneficial because towards the second year, I did a lot of like the practical work that I was meant to do. So yeah, I think we get to have so many expectations of university and first year and like your degree. Because even sometimes when I reflect back on it, there's a lot of things I've learned I'm not using now. Like, it's irrelevant. Like, so definitely the curriculum needs to be something to be thought of.
And I also think we also need to re-look into transition from secondary high schools into first year of uni, because I think the way students are taught in high school, secondary school is very different to the way lecturers are teaching them. So they get into the uni, it's already a new environment, and then it's like, wait, what is happening? Why is this? What am I doing? Their moral, some other subject that students can relate to. So that could actually deter people from staying in engineering programs. Do you think you have faced any specific challenges by you being a female in engineering? I know you've mentioned a few here and there earlier on, but
apart from what I mentioned in the past, having all like these sexist jokes and feeling like sometimes you can't really ask the question you want because you're scared of like involving all the women with you in there. I think I didn't face direct sexism throughout my university time because, as I've mentioned, I don't have much experience in industry, because I've always been kind of encouraged to do my best, and I was rewarded for what I did. So I don't think I faced direct sexism throughout my curriculum, apart from like these indirect like mentions or like jokes, even within my peers as well, within the professors and like the academia team, kind of the academic team, but also within my peers, or maybe the look people have when you tell them, when you meet new people and they ask you what you do, and you're like, oh, I'm an engineer, or I'm studying materials or chemical engineering, and they're like, oh, I wouldn't have thought that you were engineer or you were that smart. And I'm like, how do you guess how smart a person is based on their face when you meet them in a completely random setting? That it's just I'm saying just because it's not there anyway, but it's just these little things. I was lucky enough not to face any major issue, but it was just these little things all the time currently, like reminding you that people don't see you straight away as an engineer because you're a female.
For me, the challenge was challenge of being heard, because people would just put me aside. Oh, she's a woman. She doesn't have an opinion to this. She shouldn't have an opinion to this. So just put me on the side without actually listening to what I have to say. That's in terms of career, but in terms of university as well, just because the classroom was very much mainly male dominated. Sometimes when you have like group coursework and stuff, I'll be the only female within the group. So I didn't feel included. I didn't feel like involved. And that was one of the main struggle I had like in my first year as well, is just like fitting in within my group, within my peers. So yeah, that was one of the main challenges.
Advice would you give to any young girl, probably in secondary school, high school, who is considering an engineering career?
Go for it. It's great. Go for it. I know we've been complaining, but we've been telling about our struggles. But engineering is so fun. Like it's great. Just if you want to go for it and don't doubt yourself, like go for it. If you think you're gonna like it, you're probably gonna love it. So just go for it and keep pushing, and don't let anyone just discourage you from doing it. And if you really like it, you will like it. You will love it. It's so interesting. You've got to do so many different things, and it's quite open. Like you can start being, like as I did, you can start being a materials engineer, and you can end up doing a PhD in chemical engineering. You could do aero, you can do computer science, you can do so many things within engineering. So you probably will find something that you like. And yeah, don't let anybody stop you, and feel confident. It's not always going to be easy, but just keep being confident in yourself and stop unnecessarily doubting yourself, and just go for it. It's really good fun. You're probably going to meet very good people. You're going to have incredible opportunities, and yeah, just go for it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Tymele in this. It's just if you have the dream of like becoming an engineer, just hold into that dream and work hard to get there. Just believe in yourself. Don't listen to haters who are like, oh, you can't do it, oh, you won't get to this. Just believe in yourself, hold into the dream, and just work hard and do whatever possible to get there. And engineering is very versatile. Like there is a lot of opportunity you can do. Like I started as a computer scientist, and then later on went into mechanical engineering. Now I'm in automotive engineering. So there's so much. It's so versatile. You can do so much into it. You touch different subjects, and it's really good. Just as well, anyone that tells you can't do it, just prove them wrong. Because
I think in every field that you go to, there's always going to be like that nagging voice, no, you can't do it, no, you can't do it. But the thing is, within you yourself, do you want it that bad to go for it all the way? So for me, my advice to people is that do it. Just do it. And you realize that eventually it might take long, or it might not necessarily go through the same route that you want, but eventually you will get to that final goal that you're hoping for. So I'm gonna end it. I think this is my fun question to the two of you. So the perception of engineers is that we're really boring people, and we tend to be extremely serious in everything that we do. So what fun or exciting thing do you two do outside of the engineering field that you think that people will be quite surprised to find out that you do that?
Tymele, I'll let you go first. I need to think about this one, because first question, the first answer I'll have. Oh, I'm quite boring.
No, you're not. Come on, that's not true. You do so many things. So I love sport and physical activity in general. I am passionate about weightlifting, so I do a lot of weightlifting and I completely love
What's
it.
the heaviest weight you've lifted?
Oh, well, it depends on the exercises, but I don't know if it depends on the exercises, but I can lift 120 kilos on certain exercises. On others, just way less, on 70 kilos, or it really depends. But it makes you, well, it's challenging. It makes you feel confident in yourself. I guess that helped me a lot throughout my life as a person or in my curriculum. Just knowing that I can lift that much. It can sound a bit crazy, but it just makes you more confident in general. And it's just a sport, so I love it as well. I just like the physical activity in the sport. I love football. I've been playing football since I was in high school. So I love that too. It's quite different because it's a team sport, obviously. So I love playing with other girls, and I've been doing that within my PhD as well. We have like a PhD female football team, which is so much fun, and we just love it. It's amazing. So these are the two main sports I really love doing. But I love everything that involves me moving. Even better if I do it with other people. So volleyball, football, basketball, anything that I can do with my friends and other people love it. Then so I like to do quite a lot of volunteering as well on the side. So within the community, which doesn't sound fun, but it is absolutely good fun. You get to meet people you wouldn't have met if you kept in your social circle kind of thing. And you obviously get to do so much good within your own community. So that's amazing too. And I love books. Just like Amina. That doesn't sound fun, but it is.
Hopefully they're not textbooks.
No, they're not.
Hopefully it's not textbooks. Yeah.
Any kind of books. So Amina can agree with me. This is amazing too. And again, you get to meet a lot of people when you said like, "Oh, I love books," and then you get to share about it. It doesn't sound exciting, but I swear it is. Off you go, Amina.
I think it's like I love reading books. I'm obsessed with books. So I read a lot on the side. But as well, I love volunteering. I do a lot of volunteering within the local community, locally here, but as well overseas. I've done a couple of volunteering overseas. So I do enjoy giving back to the community and meeting other people, and it's just so rewarding as well. And just do something that is different from your day-to-day work, and just meeting people that are outside of your field or office or your social group, basically. Yeah, I would say that's it. I'm not really keen on sport. It's not even in my vocabulary, sport. The only sport I do is chewing. So, yeah, books, definitely books. That's priority. I love traveling. I haven't been traveling a lot for the past few years, just with PhD and everything, and being a broke student as well. So, yeah.
Okay, really lovely answers. I think the two of you are book addicts.
Yeah.
I think the two of you are book addicts from where I say, which is very different from engineering, because I think people think we're just calculating, doing design work, but hey, you can read outside of engineering too as well and enjoy it. So thank you very much to Tymele and Amina for your time, and then for sharing your experiences. I'm sure you're probably going to get people trying to reach out to you to find out much more in depth about engineering and what you've been doing in either research or in industry. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for having us.